Hi, so this is the third video on how to sew the tails in. In the first video, we made the centers. That's a popcorn, that's a daisy. Then I showed you how to sew up the popcorn, which is identical to how you would sew up the daisy. There's no difference. And now we've come to the tails. This work isn't reversible. It will be for something where you only have one side showing. I like to have a really sharp pair of scissors. Makes a huge difference. I have a variety of needles. Some are sharp, some are blunt. The sharp ones are called chenille, C-H-E-N-I-L-L-E. And then the blunt ones, they're just called darning needles. As I'm working with quite a thick yarn, it's a DK double crochet, but it's a thicker version of double crochet. These particular ones are Mariner yarns here in the UK. This is Mariner's Essential. I can't tell you what color that is. So I'm going to put it over the needle. I like to use a bigger one simply because that makes it easier if the hole is not too hard. Now you see all the V's here on the top. I'm literally going to be working into that V there. And because this is pointed and I don't want to split the yarn, I go with the head through the back, to the back, not through the back, to the back, from the front to the back. And then we can see where this yarn originated from. I'm going to go into that hole all the way down. If you turn your work over, you can see I've gone through a fair number of loops. Turn the work around. Now the stitch is not complete yet, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to imitate the makeup of the stitches, and they have this loop here at the bottom. See the loop? This one doesn't have it yet. So to imitate that, I'm going to take this yarn to the other side. Fairly good imitation. Turn the work, untwist the yarn on the needle. You'll want to twist up again. Just give it a little bit of an untwist, just so that when I'm working it away, there are more fibers that are free now to catch. You can actually split the yarn and you can work in all different directions, which is great for when you're working with tiny baby clothes. When you're working with a 4-ply, then you break up all the different plies, you work them in different directions. But we're not going to do it now. But what I like to do is go as far as possible with my yarn. Keep my fingers here because I don't want to distort that first stitch. As you can see, it's almost impossible to tell where it is. And if you are going to be sewing them together like that, it's absolutely fantastic when there isn't a knot on the end of your work. So it's this one over here, and I'm just going to put it back onto the needle. Give it a little untwist to open it, and following the makeup of the stitches, I go down to what I call the worm. Those are worms. You've got small worms and you've got big worms. Go back into the worm all the way to the end. I want to get up to that worm there. I'm going to go up, untwist it a bit, work across, getting that sharp point into as many fibers as possible, really breaking up the stitches all the time, keeping my finger here on the back to make sure it's not coming through the front. Work through the worm, This little one is being so annoying. I like to go as far as possible with the yarn. That's why it's nice to have a nice big tail. Go down to the middle of the worm, you can see it's there, not coming out the front. So you see, even if you pull it, you can see that it's gone around so many times. It's really not going to come undone. You can clip it off. What I like to do is keep it there so that when I work this one, I can know, short-term memory, that I've really worked in that area. So I'm going to try and get across to those worms there, just so that it doesn't bulk up in one place. When we started with him, if we need to, we can give him a little tug, but it's not necessary. I think he's a very happy stitch. Sometimes they can be a bit gaping. Look at that, you can almost not tell. I love it when it's so invisible, you can't tell where anything started. I'm going to go in, catching along back of those stitches. See, nothing in the front. Putting it through. Very happy with that. Go into that worm there. Turn the work around, unraveling as I go. I'm going to work down so I can work into this worm. I'm going to work across, catching as many fibers as I can, including the pink fibers, not just the white ones. I'm going to get to the top worm, go up, and all the way through that worm, catching the fibers, really sinking it in. Super. Cut those off. Now, how do I work the tails away? I'm going to start with the center, and that is the magic ring. Untwist the yarn, making sure I know which direction the magic ring came from, because the last thing you want to do is work towards it. You'll unravel all your work. You want to continue the direction clockwise. In this case, there's your clock, 12, 6, 3, 9. You're working in a clockwise direction. Going from 12 down to 3. Going from 3 to 6 on your clock. Going from 6 to 9. You can continue like that for quite a while. It will bulk up the center, but as it's a flower, that's not a negative thing. And all the time, because that's the front of the work, all the time my finger is there. I am not going through to the front. I'm working in the back. Because the last thing you want in the front of your work is all these 3 to 9 to 6 to 9, whatever, yarns coming through. I've gone quite a few times around now. Now I want to work in the opposite direction, but instead of working into the center, I'll just go onto the slightly outer edge, the periphery. If this was a city, this would be the highway that usually circulates around a city. Many cities do have them now, circular highways. Okay, I'm happy with that. I've gone quite around a few times. See, there's a little bit of yarn left. Might seem like overkill, but such a shame when something comes loose because it hasn't been worked away. Cut that off. What about that little tail? When you wash it, it will pretty much disappear. What am I doing here? Okay, this is the last one. So where am I? He was made from a knot. So we have two choices. We can either pull the knot into this worm, or we can work the knot down. So from the front of the work, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Those petals are so big, you really can't see it. So I'm going to work down. I'm going to go straight down. I want to anchor that knot, so I'm going to come up, making sure that I catch some of those threads around that knot, just to make sure it's nicely anchored. Then I'm going to go through the worm, and because I started the whites on the other side, I've known those worms there, the whites were on that side, I worked through them, and this pink yarn was on this side, so I'm not working too many threads into one worm. Now I'm going to go down into the base of the petals. It's not the periphery of the center, it's the actual base of these petals here. I'll try and get back into the screen. Where was I just falling off the screen? Sorry about that. I'm going to work around. As I do, just give my needle a twist. And you see, when I was working in two different colors for the flowers, this was a real pain, because I had two different colors here, and that inner petal was such a small surface to work a color away. Now it's going really quickly. If you are not doing this for a baby, for instance, if you want to make these for a handbag or something, you can always add a bead in the center there. So I finished that. I'm going to cut it off. Here we go. Let me see. I don't have any. I have some beads. The bigger ones I hadn't landed. But if you took a bead, obviously a bigger one, if you took a bead and you sewed it into there, see how pretty that could be? You do them all at the same time. You get yourself some cotton and put your bead on and pull it in. So there's no reason why. You can also put a button in the middle if you wanted to. So the flower is not actually officially finished, simply because it's all one color. You can very easily add something to your flower. As I said, it all depends if it's for a baby or not. If it's for a baby, you wouldn't do that. Here's something else. These are little eyes. They're in little teams of 2. But it's actually a button with a piece of felt on it. Now this is too big to go into that hole. What I would have done was I would have left that hole bigger if I knew I was going to be doing that. And then if your hole is bigger, which means you didn't pull that magic circle very, very tight, you could put that in there. And that's also very pretty, isn't it? So don't feel limited simply because you didn't use another color in the center. If you want to stick to yarns, but once again, also you've got to be careful for babies. You have to work this away a lot if you're going to do it. You would use a contrasting color. So whatever the contrasting color is, and you could look at a video. You can make something called a French knot. So it's basically it's like you use it with a crochet hook. You make a little French knot, and then you could pull it through there so that each one could have like a little tiny French knot right in the middle. and then you'd pull it through the side and you'd work the tails away. So there are definitely ways of making your flower more interesting. For instance, this one, you say, oh, it's quite a boring, a horrible flower, but if you added a little pink French knot right in the middle, it'd be very pretty. So there we go. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you'll try them out as well. And as I said, if you find other flower patterns, then there's no reason why you cannot adapt it and continue with the granny square around the edge. Thank you very much, and until next time, goodbye.